This episode has been brought to you by DiceyGoblin.com, online board game retailer, where every board game is an award-winning board game.
Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you a prototype preview of a game called Expedition that is currently on Kickstarter right now. After you watch the video, if you think it's something you'd be interested in backing, I'll have the link in the description below and you can go over there and check it out. What this is basically a simplified way of getting maybe a one-shot RPG or possibly a campaign, but a quick way to set up and get going in a RPG-like game, basically. And let me be the first to tell you that I've never played a RPG. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, or there's that Star Wars one that's out right now. I'm not real familiar with that. One thing that this game offers that is exciting for me is that it also, and I should start off by saying there is an app that you use with this game, and that app comes currently preloaded with a couple of scenarios, and one of them is a kind of a test run scenario. It's very short to give you an idea of how that might work. I believe there's stretch goals on the Kickstarter to expand those guided scenarios, and then it goes on from there, and it will give other ways the app can be used to either kind of help the GM or the guide through and give them some ideas of how to get the campaign going, or the individual mission going, the individual scenario. Or it has a method for just, you know what, do what you want. You can just completely set up your own story, and we're not going to guide you through this at all. You're going to just be a true GM as far as this goes. But there are some cards involved with stats for monsters and stats for the adventurers. And you know what, let's just get right into it, and I'll show you what these cards look like, how it works, how the app works, and then we'll come back for some final thoughts. So here are all the cards that you're going to get with Expedition, the role-playing card game. You can see up here we've got various decks of monsters. We've got different abilities right here. Here's some loot in different levels, 1, 2, and 3. And then over here, let me pan the camera, we've got the different adventurers that you can be in the game, and then an icon cheat sheet down here. And real quick, I'm going to go through kind of what's in these different decks, and then I'm going to show you how the app works. And because normally for a prototype preview, this is where I would kind of explain the rules and basically give you a how to play. But the cool thing with this is that the app really kind of takes control of that for you. But let's look at some of these monsters real quick. So you got the undead monsters, and you see this is a level 4 here, and then you got all the way down to level 1. 2 and 3 obviously in there as well. So a level 1 undead might be the zombie hand, and if the app tells you that a surge has happened, then you revive it to half health if dead. Then it gives you a little flavor text at the bottom. I always like it when games include some flavor text, and a lot of games that are coming through Kickstarter that I've seen anyway don't do that. If they're kind of the first game that a company's putting out, or if they're, I don't know, it's just real nice to see that. And every single one of these has a different flavor text on them. And then the level 4 is a lich. And you can see that it's got, and if you don't know what a symbol means, they got the quick icon cheat sheet, so you can see right here that's going to be a magic ability. So magic abilities deal 2 less damage. Surge, add 1 random undead to encounter, and update the encounter tier. So, and the encounter tier, what that's referring to is on the app, it's going to ask you after each round of combat what level of monsters are left, and that just means you're going to add up all the different levels together and then tell the app, and that helps it with whatever sort of calculations it's doing. So there's the undead. Let's take a look at some more real quick. For the Fae, level 1 might be an imp, and keep in mind there's more than this. Is a level 1, the imp, and then so is the Corrigan elf. So it's not just all imps or all level 1 are imps and so forth. So this has things like melee abilities deal 1 extra damage, magic abilities deal 2 less damage, and surge this round, all melee damage is magic instead. And then go up to the most powerful one is going to be the Rift Walker. Take 2 less damage from all sources. Surge, all damage dealt by an adventurer this round is also dealt to themselves. And these symbols right here, this is the health of the monster. Now, one thing that right now, you just use a paper clip or something and slide it down this way. Of course, you use paper and pencil if you wanted to as well. That might get a little messy considering how many monsters you might have at a time, not to mention your adventurers. So you just use a paper clip. Now, there is a stretch goal to add these customized paper clips. I say paper clips, customized little tabs, and you can take a look on the Kickstarter for that. So in the beast, the level 1 is like an aspic viper here. And then the top one is going to be a troll. The level 4 is a troll. You got things like giant rats and bear matriarch, direwolf. And then in the bandits for level 1, you've got things like a thief, an archer, brigand. And then level 4, you've got the captain. So now let's take a look at some of these abilities. You know what? Actually, let's take a look at the adventurers first, because that way you'll better understand how the abilities might work. So, for instance, if you were the hungry halfling, all the adventurers, as they are right now, start with 12 health. And then they have this. The halfling is going to have 4 music abilities and 4 melee abilities. And the way that would work is when you were setting up the game, and the app tells you all this, but when you were setting up your game, you would draw 4 music abilities and you draw 4 melee abilities and you shuffle them together, and that's your starting deck that you're going to use during combat in the game. And then you can see the dutiful soldier starts with 4 melee and 4 ranged. But it's not always just 2 or split up 4 and 4. For instance, the stealthy recluse only gets 8 ranged. And then the pack rat is going to get 3 ranged, 3 melee, and 2 magic. So you can see it changes up a good bit. Or here the idealist monk, 5 melee and 3 magic. So there's a lot of different mixtures there based on what the characters are. And up here, the ambitious noble, 8 music starting abilities. Now you might be wondering, what in the world is a music ability and why would that be useful? Well, let's take a look at those first. I'll take a look at the top 3 here, see what they are. So, Song of Heroism. All right, and what you're going to want to notice on these cards are a few things. Right here, that means it's going to be a damage dealing ability, whereas this symbol right here is going to be reference to loot. So, for instance, transpose. If you roll greater than or equal to an 8, then it's going to be a success, and you're going to have 1 target of transpose. And this right here is going to tell you what the success does. So in this case, success. Use a loot's combat effect once without discarding it. So normally loot gets discarded when you use it. This is going to let you use it without discarding it. And then here it tells you if you equal to or greater than a 20, which is going to be a crit, you may use 2 loot once without discarding them. And if you get equal to or less than a 1, then you must discard 1 loot or take 2 damage. And then this symbol up here, it means that it's going to be related to health. So, Reveille? Yeah, let's say Reveille. And I'll pretend like I'm not completely incompetent at pronunciation. So if you roll greater than or equal to a 13, success, the target regains 6 health. And the crit, the positive critical success is going to be the target regains all missing health. And critical fail, target takes 3 damage. And then back over here, Song of Heroism, greater than or equal to a 10. You target all adventurers with this. And notice this one right here was also a target just 1. Here, target all adventurers. Success, adventurers deal 1 extra damage this round. And the critical success gives you extra damage to 2. Oh, increase extra damage to 2. Sorry, I was reading that all messed up. It's early here, y'all. And then critical fail, adventurers take 1 damage. So, and all these are going to be like that. Let's look at a few ranged attacks real quick. So, let's see. These are, you can see damage, and then it looks like, well, I haven't actually used that symbol before. So let's take a look at that real quick. Since the wind, greater than or equal to a 6, you're targeting yourself. Success, draw and play an extra ability next round. Okay, so this is involving drawing cards. It's the deck, your cards that you've got there. Though I would imagine this could also involve other people's cards, and I don't see how it would be able to target directly a enemy in any cases because they don't really have cards. But you never know what they might have in these decks. I have definitely not seen all the cards here. Success, draw and play an extra ability next round. And then the critical success, also add plus 4 to your next roll. and critical fail, you cannot play abilities next round. Split shot, deal 2 damage by rolling 10, and you're targeting 2 enemies there. And then long shot, target 1 enemy, deal 5 damage. Oh, and the critical success there is deal double damage, which is pretty nice. All right, and then let's look at some magic. So here we've got Shockwave, deal 2 damage to all enemies. Phase shift, target yourself and you regain 3 health. And Soul Fire, target 1 enemy, deal damage equal to the number of alive and dead enemies in play. That's a pretty interesting one. And the melee abilities, they're going to look like this. Thrust, target 1 enemy. If target dies from thrust, deal 3 melee damage to an extra target. It's pretty cool. Whirlwind, take 3 damage and deal 3 damage. So this one, you're attacking 3 enemies and it's pretty easy to do. So the trade-off is you're actually going to take 3 damage by doing this, but you're also going to deal 3 damage to 3 different enemies. And Split Strike, target 2 enemies. If Split Strike kills an enemy, you may take 2 damage to resolve it again without re-rolling. So there's an idea of some of the abilities you're going to get. And then let's take a look at the loot finally before we take a look at the app real briefly. Blackbriar Ale, single use. Use any now. Everyone I've seen is single use. So I'm not sure if there's some mixed in here that are not single use, but generally speaking, loot's going to be single use. Use anytime, and then you can choose one. One target regains 4 health, or all adventurers regain 1 health. Energy Shard. One target takes 2 damage of the type of your choosing. Choose one. One target takes 3 magic damage, or 3 targets take 1 magic damage. And then some level 2 loot here. Enchanted Glass. Use anytime. Choose one. Double the damage dealt by 1 ability, or your guide reveals the next encounter. Dusty Tome. Each adventurer may discard 1 ability from their ability deck to learn a new ability from the same deck. And Heroism Potion. 1 target regains 6 health, or your damaging abilities deal 1 extra damage for the rest of the encounter. And some level 3 loot for you. Balancing Gem. Reduce or regain 1 target to half health. Elixir. 1 target regains 10 health, or all adventurers regain 3 health. Tome of Lore. Each adventurer may discard 1 ability from their ability deck to learn a new ability of their choice. Draw 3, pick 1. Okay, so, and then of course, like I said, you got the icon cheat sheet down here that's very helpful. Now, I'm going to show you this app. I'm not sure. Let's see how well this is going to work. Looks like you can see it pretty well on here. All right, so I've got this up on the web-based version. They do have an iOS version and an Android version, but I figured I would show it this way because everybody, presumably, has the internet, especially if you're watching this video. So you can go to print cards if you want to print out your print and play version. But then you can click begin here. And this is where it's going to ask you how many adventurers. You can adjust that number. So multi-touch is generally how you want to do this, and I'll show you why in a minute. So let's do that down to 2 because I'm not sure I could activate the multi-touch by myself if I have 3 different players. Full help is what I'm going to leave it on for the moment, but you can adjust that to no help, some help, or full help. And this is basically the amount of tutorial you're going to be getting. So this one, you can see some help hides basic pop-up messages, but keeps the important rules. Let's go full help so you can see exactly how helpful it can be. Featured quests. Now these are where no guide is needed. This is something where they've completely programmed the quest in. The one that's currently here, which I'll show you in a second, is very, very basic. I believe it has 1 encounter, maybe 2. The guided adventure is going to be, this is really where the game shines. And now I'll keep in mind, I have not ever been into role-playing games. It's not where I came up into gaming through. And so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to create a good quest this way. But you can use the guided adventure, which is for beginner and intermediate guides, and it kind of gives you a framework for your quest, or do a custom encounter for experienced guides only, and it'll provide you with a combat system. But you're going to have to come up with the entire quest yourself as the guide for the other players. And then right here, the custom quest, this is something that's in beta stage. You see upload a quest file from your phone or the internet. But let's go to the featured quest real quick because no guide is needed. And you can kind of see how this is going to work. Oh, and look at this. Since the last time, when I played on my iPhone with the app, I only had Oust Albinus. And now there's this one in here too. I'm going to show you Oust Albinus because I'm familiar with it. I'm going to have to go in and play Mistress Malaise and see what that's like. All right, so here we go. Out right here. So here it tells you select one adventurer from the deck and pass the deck along. Keep this card face up in front of you. So basically, each person will get to choose which adventure they're going to be. Keep that card face up. Once you're done with that, click next. And here's a tutorial. It's telling you about, the risk, which when it's saying risk, it's referring to on the cards, the up in the top left there, that you need to roll a greater than or equal to 8. So risk, targets, damage. And so you see it's starting to explain to you all this different stuff because now it wants you to draw your starting abilities listed on the adventure card. Make sure to read the drawing cards and understand what they do. Shuffle them into a stack face down in front of you. Take a single D20 for later rolls. And it then tells you during your adventure, pass this device to your right whenever you make a decision or hit the next button during the story. That's just so that everybody gets a chance to be holding onto it. You could just easily have one person reading out everything on here, but it might get boring for everybody else. Or not boring, but they might want to be able to read as well. But some people, as I'm sure you know, don't like reading at all. And so here we go. We're into the story. Your party arrives in this town. So Albinus has stolen all of their cheese, and then you're given a choice to help the villagers recover their precious cheese or attack the filthy peasants for wasting your time. Filthy peasants. So we're going to attack them. You begin to swing your weapon and cast magics indiscriminately into the crowd. Needless to say, the town guard is not pleased. So here, prepare to fight. And it's going to tell you, draw an archer and a veteran. Draw the enemies listed above, place in the center, and put tokens on their maximum health. All right, so then all that means is you're just going to find the archer and the bandit deck there and the veteran, and you're going to start fighting them. And here we go. So tutorial, it gives you a quick tutorial over the fighting. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to draw 3 cards. Oh, hold on. Let's see here. All right, so draw 3 cards, but don't look at them until you begin the actual round of combat. When you begin, you'll look at the 3 cards and play one on the table. Place your finger on the screen. When all fingers are down, the timer will stop. And the longer you take, the more chances the enemy will have to attack you. So there's a speed element here. And keep in mind, you don't look until you click Start Timer. And so right now, you'd be looking at your hand, and you'd be trying to figure out which card you're going to play. And maybe one person figures it out, and so they're going to touch the screen. And now that means they're done, but now we have 2 people, so we got to get the other person, and they take it too much time, and okay, now they touch the screen. And so that's why it's important to have the number of adventurers, because you're going to be touching the screen as you finish playing, and once the final person touches, that's when the timer stops. So then everybody is going to roll a die for whatever abilities they chose and resolve the effects. Then here, tier sum is where, so let's say the level 2 monster had gotten killed, or which I believe was called the captain, then you would roll that down to 1 because you just have the archer left, who is a tier 1 bad guy. And then you will click next. Now, if you had defeated them, you can see you would end encounter with a victory, but we'll click next. And now all adventurers take 7 damage, which is pretty brutal since you start with 12. And then you would adjust this for how many adventurers are left in the game, and you click next, and then you go through it all again. Now let me just do this, and we'll get to the end of the combat, and we'll say we killed the archer. End with victory. All right, so at the end of battle, you get loot, and explains how all that works, and it gives you a little bit, and it's not always going to be necessarily the same thing, depending on what's going on. You could draw 3 ability cards instead of loot to add an ability to your ability deck, but then you can draw loot, and then you continue on. And that's the way it works. So one thing that I think is neat with this game is when you draw those 3 cards and you've got them, you can't look at them yet, and then you flip them over and you got to read through, see what you got, and make your play as quickly as possible, because the longer you wait, the more likely it is you're going to take some significant damage. Because you see, you only start with 12 health, and these monsters, depending on how powerful they are going to start really throwing some damage at you. There is a big variety of monsters included in this prototype. I obviously only showed you a few of them. However, that's something that the way this campaign is going over on Kickstarter and the way they got it set up, the app itself is open source. You know, people who are familiar with any of that stuff are going to be able to go in there and kind of play with it themselves. And obviously there's some restrictions. You can go over to the Kickstarter and see exactly how all that works. That's not something that I deal with a whole lot, so I don't know all the particulars, but it is open source, so that's one thing to think about. I've liked it so far. Obviously, it's just a prototype, but it is basically in its final stages. I do know that the general art layout on the cards is what you're going to get. It's pretty sparse, but you know what? I think it serves its purpose, so that's something to think about. I think the graphic design on the cards is great. I think it works really well. They've got everything you need on there. You're not having to use paper on the side to keep track of stuff. All you need is some sort of marker or a paper clip, and you just slide it right along on the card there. And again, that's something that they're looking at over on the Kickstarter to add to it as well, is these little sword-like clips that go on there. So there's a lot of really good things going for this game. If you think it's something that you might be interested in, go over there and check it out. I know it's already doing fairly well. I'm not sure if it is completely funded yet, but I do know that it was cooking along pretty well last time I checked. Check it out in the description below for the link. So that's Expedition. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. You can find me on Twitter @boredoffline. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.